Good day, everyone. Today I'll be talking about the Latvian reform of the state exam and its system. Pretty interesting stuff. This video is by myself, Matthew Cooke. Here are my references. So, for a brief history of Latvia, Latvia is a small Baltic state nestled south of Estonia, north of Lithuania. They've been conquered throughout pretty much their known history, but most recently, at the end of World War I, they were claimed their independence from the Russian Soviet Federation, which in itself was a big feat. They celebrate every year their Independence Day on the 18th of November. However, as you probably would realize, the Russians weren't too happy, so they invaded in, 2 weeks later, basically. When they did that, started off what the Latvians know as the War of Independence. The last picture you see here is the Latvians, Lithuanians, Estonians seeking their freedom at the end of the fall of the Soviet Union. Why did they do that? Well, because during World War II, all three countries were then reoccupied by Soviet Russia and were occupied for the entire duration of World War II up until the fall in 1992. Very important for the history because Latvia has always maintained that it was an independent state occupied by foreign powers. Going to be very important shortly. What is the problem today? Well, the problem is the state examination. It's for students in comprehensive secondary, which for all intensive purposes is general high school, middle school, and grade school that we have here. So in grade 3, 6, and 9, they must pass a state examination. And what is that? Well, it's an exam that needs to be completed in the official state language, which is Latvian. It's a centralized exam that are both elective, compulsory, and some administered directly by the school. So in the compulsory section, those obviously must all be done. So a written Latvian language exam, mathematics, and then one foreign language. For the most part, it's either English or Russian. Centralized exams that are elective, they need to take at least one of those in one of the 4 subjects there, and then there's the ones administered by the school. So all these exams must be completed in the official state language. So how is this seen? It's important. So on the Latvian side, like I said earlier, they're really proud of their language. They've maintained their independence, they've built their language laws to protect their culture and heritage, and they've maintained their identity during that entire Soviet occupation. So what would you expect them to happen with this language? Well, from the perspective of international students, well, it can be a little troublesome. International students, parents, and teachers, they weren't ready to face this problem. They're currently lobbying the Minister of Education to change the law in order to allow people to complete the state examinations in other languages. And for the most part, this affects the Russian-speaking elite because they form the majority of all people who attend private institutions and who do not speak Latvian. So when you look at a lot of the Russian-speaking people in the public schools, they're born here in Latvia, speak both Russian and Latvian, but the comparison though with a private school is these Russians are from outside of Latvia and don't necessarily intend to speak the local language. So just do a little pop quiz to highlight the problem here. The state examinations must be completed in the state language. It was a law that was vaguely enforced in the past, but due to political tensions in Latvia, the fact that the Russians have been a little more aggressive towards the neighboring countries around their border, Latvia was trying to basically reinforce their state language laws to protect the culture. So what they did is they started enforcing Latvian examination laws in Latvian only, so they removed one of the big loopholes where Russian students were completing their exams in Russian. So what do you think has happened? A. International students whose language is not Latvian must now pass the exam in a foreign language. B. School curriculums must place additional emphasis on Latvian languages or Latvian language during the courses. C. Valuable class time is spent teaching to the specific test now. Or D. All the above. I think it's self-explanatory here. It's all of it. That concludes a little background info and how the state examination works. It's tough right now for especially for the international schools to scramble, build in extra Latvian classes, as you saw earlier, it affects both grade 3, 6, and 9. So at a pretty close interval, all these students must now pass the state examination in Latvian. And if you've ever heard or looked at the Latvian language, it's one of the harder ones to learn. So it will be an interesting next year or two as the government's being lobbied and looking at either reforming or amending the laws. So more to follow on that. Thanks.